Mother and father sent you to spy on me, didn't they? I'm not above breaking a few fingers. The fact that they thought I wouldn't find out just proves how much they underestimate me. Oh, thing, you poor, naive appendage. My parents aren't worried about me. They're evil puppeteers who want to pull my strings even from afar.
I know you're gonna have to do almost everything alone up here, but you know I'll be with you. Apollo was like my son. I raised him. When he died, part of me died. But now, you're the one. You're the one that's gonna keep his spirit alive. You're the one that's gonna make sure that he didn't die for nothing. Now you're gonna have to go through hell. Worse than any nightmare that you ever dreamed. But in the end, I know you'll be the one standing.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhood Podcast.
Greetings, Starfighters! Welcome to Ruined Childhoods, where we dive into the world of movies and franchises, exploring endless possibilities of sequels, prequels, remakes, reboots, etc. My name's Dan, and my co-host is my brother John.
Hey.
How's it going, John?
It's going pretty good. We are recording this on this cluster in Portland where we're having extreme heat. So we are recording in the morning, and I'm out in my shed, and we'll see how quickly I start to boil. I'm also drinking hot coffee, but I feel like that's better, right? To drink a hot beverage when it's hot.
Well, you're theoretically matching, trying to match the external temperature with the internal temperature, I think, is the way to go. I know I believe that's conventional science, even though, you know, we're trained to think
a cool glass of water.
It does. It always feels good to drink a cool, or actually, you know what? I got to say, I'm into room temperature water.
Oh, controversy.
And this isn't just like a sensitive teeth thing, but I have to say, I feel like I can drink more water when it's not ice cold. That said, on a sweaty, schwitzy day, the ice cold water is great because it also doubles as a little ice pack. You put it on your forehead.
But this is not a podcast about temperature and our existence in heat. This is
but stay hydrated.
No, this is a really fun exploration that we're doing in these episodes. On the last episode, we looked back at our past episodes. Our last episode is episode 200, so we looked back at a couple episodes that we did where we kind of theorized ways that something could be brought back, and then they created a new movie in the franchise. They were Bill and Ted and the Indiana Jones franchises, and it was really fun to listen back to hear exactly what we were thinking might happen or could happen or should happen, and then to see what actually did happen. And we're doing the same thing today with our episodes from the Addams Family and specifically Rocky IV.
And what I find really interesting about at least the ones that we've done so far, and actually Addams Family fits into this, we always seem to have been recording these episodes just on the cusp of an announcement of a new project.
That's true. Well, for Addams Family, we were aware that something was happening.
Well, I think in this case, the animated Addams Family was maybe a trailer had already been released at that point. I'm sure
in our
we'll
episode,
find out.
so okay, in our episode about the movie The Crow, which is really strange because I just got a notification on my screen from Esquire about Enter the Dragon. So there's some Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee stuff going on. Because in our episode from The Crow, the trailer for the Addams Family animated movie that was released, I think it was Illumination, that came out, and you were commenting. I didn't pull the clip because it didn't seem like it was right there, but you were commenting.
It's in the Crow episode.
Yeah, well. I mean, I listened to it. I went back and I listened to see if I should pull it. But we were just talking about how in the trailer for the new Addams Family movie that came out in 2021, there was a reference to the fact that it took place in New Jersey. And we were commenting about how Charles Addams, the creator of the Addams Family, is from our neighboring town when we were growing up, Westfield, New Jersey. And that was kind of the big, like, you know, oh, are they going to be true to Westfield? But, you know, they certainly did it because Charles Addams was from New Jersey, but...
Although it's actually really interesting, the depiction of the town that they live in, it could apply to many suburban towns in many cities.
Oh,
but
small town USA.
But also like, which the idea, and I don't know if you have a synopsis of the 2019 animated Addams Family. Was it 20? The article I'm looking at here is 2019, and it's just kind of a background.
Yeah,
article,
2019.
So they don't know if there's a planned synopsis, but even if there is,
I'm just pulling stuff from the internet. So I'll just read it here. Members of the mysterious and spooky Addams family, Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, Wednesday, Uncle Fester, and Grandma, are readily preparing for a visit from their even creepier relatives. But trouble soon arises when shady TV personality Margot Needler realizes that the Addams' eerie hilltop mansion is standing in the way of her dream to sell all the houses in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and the whole like development that she works for, and the town is called, it's going to be known as the town of assimilation, and
right.
Very I mean, you know, not subtle at all. And it's Allison Janney as Margot Needler.
It was fun, yeah.
It was, yes, exactly. Exactly. It was fun.
So here's my take on the 2019 Addams Family, is that the animation and a lot of the writing and the score, it made it feel like, I don't know, a really low budget television, like computer generated animated television show. The backgrounds all seemed to be very static. There wasn't a lot of depth to it. It was like everything was in focus. Like even if something was supposed to be like a mile away, you could see it perfectly clear. And there's just something that was too crispy about it. I loved the look of the, you know, character design and everything because it's taken from the original comic strips. And it's certainly given the Illumination, Minions-y, Despicable Me look.
Although what's funny is it was not an Illumination production.
Oh, really? I thought that it was originally like, supposed to be.
The style is definitely like whoever the directors are, Conrad Vernon and Greg Tiernan. Yeah, production companies, MGM, Cinesite, Braun Studios. So,
Braun Studios.
Yes. I'm wondering if, and like people who worked on this were people who had worked on
entirely
films
possible
with Illumination.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
there was just
absolutely.
something about it that seemed like it was, especially for the cast that it had, it seemed like they cut corners in other places in order to have such a fantastic cast.
I mean, it's funny. It's kind of, questionable when you're making an animated film, though. I think in this case, like, I think the Margot character was the only one where I was really sitting there, like, kind of, itching to look and see, like, who is that? Whose voice is that? But, also, like, I knew going in, I was like, yeah, it's Charlize Theron, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard, Chloe Grace Moretz. It's got
Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll. Yeah, it's got a stacked cast. So
they do the classic. It's the more classic Fester, because I feel like there's the Christopher Lloyd Fester, but I think even and we'll go into Wednesday shortly. Yeah. But Fred Armisen also seems to do the more traditional, like, squeaky voiced Fester.
I really like Fred Armisen.
It's all the same character.
Well, why don't we take a listen back to our impressions from kind of hearing a little bit more about the 2019 Addams Family. So this is from our episode from March 12th of 2019. where we kind of go a little bit deeper into it. So now, bringing it up to this year, we are going to have a reboot, an animated film with Oscar Isaac, Charlize Theron, Chloe Grace Moretz, Finn Wolfhard, Nick Kroll as Fester, Bette Midler as Grandmama, Allison Janney, and Elsie Fisher from 8th grade. What a cast.
Yeah.
And if you look at the artwork, I mean, just from like the poster, you can see it looks a lot like the original drawings.
Yeah, I'm excited about this.
I'm excited about it too. I mean, what a cast.
Honestly,
that is a great cast.
And most of that cast, especially I would say Oscar Isaac and Charlize Theron, if you were going to do a live action, which I think the animation and I think this style of animation is 100% the way to go, I can picture Oscar Isaac. So even knowing that it's Oscar Isaac doing the voice, I could see him as Gomez.
I feel like because this property has such a rich history, it can't ruin a childhood.
No.
Because if somebody's like, oh, the Addams Family, no, my childhood is ruined. It's like the Addams Family is a movie version of a TV show. Like it is a remake.
Like when you say reboot, it really is. It's taking the property and giving it a new life and breathing new life into it and saying, okay, and now it's time for this generation. And we're going to give, for us, it was Raul Julia and Angelica Houston. And they were amazing. And they were so amazing that the only way with that, even in not so recent memory, going back to 1991 and 1993, they still, that's the legacy. So taking it in this direction is a great way to add to that legacy.
I think so too. All right, so we just repeated ourselves from 4 years ago, but whatever, 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's so funny to hear that we were both so excited about it. But Dan, when was the first time that you saw the Addams Family animated film?
2 days ago.
Same here.
Yeah. Not 2019 or 20 or 21.
Yeah,
or
and
22.
I did kind of a back-to-back of the second one as well.
Ah, okay.
Did you watch that one?
Okay. I did not.
Here's a synopsis that I just pulled off the internet. Gomez and Morticia are concerned that their children, Wednesday and Pugsley, are growing up and avoiding family dinners. To reclaim their bond, they decide to take the family on a road trip in the camper van. The family visits places like the Grand Canyon and Death Valley. During the trip, Wednesday uses her pet squid's DNA on Uncle Fester to show how humans can be improved. She also catches the attention of a rich scientist engineer at a science fair. The family's trip is complicated by a lawyer who is chasing Wednesday for a DNA test. That synopsis actually is not correct. So the movie starts at the science fair, it's a school science fair, and Wednesday is showing that by taking a specimen from her pet octopus and putting it into Uncle Fester, it gives him the ability to improve his intelligence, I guess, in order to solve a Rubik's Cube. And this comes to the attention of this scientist, Dr. Strange, I think is what his name is, voiced by Bill Hader. And
Stephen, but with a PH.
Yeah, Stephen Strange. And so the scientist, we are led to believe, is almost certain that Wednesday is his biological daughter and that there was a mix-up at the hospital. And so Wednesday, who's also feeling, disassociated from the Addams family and doesn't feel like she quite fits in, as they embark on this road trip to kind of bring the family closer together, complications arise and Wednesday distances herself even further. Finn Wolfhard isn't Pugsley in this one. Instead, and I'm blanking on his name, but he's in Euphoria.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's a very small role, so it's kind of like, whatever.
All due respect.
Oh, Javon Walton.
Okay.
Who plays Ash in Euphoria. Yeah, Finn Wolfhard, and Pugsley had a bigger role in the first one, which I thought, because it was about his kind of coming of age ceremony. Yeah,
that was the central plot? No.
Well, The MacGuffin. It's what was
The MacGuffin.
It was bringing the whole family together.
Right. Yes, that was the MacGuffin. Thank you. I couldn't think of the name, and I kept thinking of McGruff, but I was like, no, that's the crime dog.
Right.
McGruff, the crime dog. Google it. I don't think he's still around. I think the Addams Family has achieved something that it's kind of rarefied air for a franchise, where it's really the characters that are important. I think for a property that is a 20th century property, been around for 100 years in terms of like when the comics started, since the 1964 as a TV series. It's one of those shows where it's like, it's immune to those cast changes. The TV series was iconic, and I would say John Astin was an amazing Gomez, but even then, like, there was a lot of time between the series and the film. And
sure.
But I think at this point, it's like kind of years. Like, it doesn't even matter. It's even, I think, immune to like, okay, so Fester can be played, not with the high squeaky voice. And as long as you nail the aspects of the character, that macabre fun of it, which Christopher Lloyd nails.
Yeah, and Christopher Lloyd also plays the role with a little bit more intelligence than it's portrayed in the animated film. Even though I guess you could say that more about Addams Family Values, because in Addams Family, he spends most of the time still being brainwashed. But he still has like a very full life of his own, which we also get in the Wednesday series. We see that, he's, wanted everywhere for being like some psycho killer, that's like.
Which they have a nod to that in the animated, not for being a psycho killer, but he's like, I can't go to this country. I can't go to this one. I can go to this one, but only on the weekends. And, whatever.
I don't know. I thought that Fred Armisen as Uncle Fester is really great. I really did appreciate that in Wednesday, the 2022 Netflix series, that they did a lot more casting that's authentic to the ideal nationalities of the characters and their origins. You have Luis Guzman playing Gomez, and then, clearly, Fred Armisen, who's, half Venezuelan. So to at least have those roots, and, Oscar Isaac being Gomez also kind of brings us there, but it in a more full way, especially because of the it's live action. You're seeing the people, you're kind of seeing the way that they interplay with each other. And Jenna Ortega, Mexican and Puerto Rican ancestry. So it totally tracks.
I feel like with Morticia, it's less specific.
Right. And I mean, Raul Julia, they're honoring those traditions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine Zeta-Jones, she was fine.
She's Welsh.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember that being a thing when she was in
Zorro.
When she was in Zorro, but I guess I guess the continuity of Anthony Hopkins also being Welsh.
Yeah.
So anyway,
just a quick little synopsis that I pulled off the internet. While attending Nevermore Academy, Wednesday navigates new relationships and attempts to stop a killing spree that has terrorized the local town. She also tries to solve the supernatural mystery that involved her parents 25 years ago. And I really liked this series. Everybody seemed to really like this series. It definitely, took these characters that we know and love, and it brought it a new life, and it made it feel very current. And it kind of had it was like Riverdale, Teen Wolf kind of a thing, where it's like, it's for teens and people in their like maybe early 20s. That's kind of like the target audience, is kind of capturing this, in like the prep school, like Harry Potter-ish type of scene.
Right.
Where people have weird things, weird qualities to them. Miss Peregrine's
dark secrets
school,
and things their parents did. And actually Riverdale's an interesting example because it is adapted from a comic series.
Plus that one also does have a teenage witch. Does Riverdale cover the Sabrina the Teenage Witch situation? I never watched it.
No, neither do I. But are you saying that there's crossover?
Well, Sabrina is part of the Riverdale.
Oh, is she part of? Is that part of the universe? Oh, that's
Archie universe.
The Sabrina, the Kiernan Shipka Sabrina.
Oh, I don't know if the shows themselves cross over, but the character is from the Archieverse.
Oh,
so I wasn't sure, but anyway,
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but no, that's also a good point to bring up, that there was the Kiernan Shipka Sabrina, which I feel like that character became more beloved when there was the like Melissa Joan Hart series that was just like a cheeky comedy, less so from
the kooky
the comics.
aunties.
Oh, Caroline Ray, who doesn't love her?
Yes.
And what also Wednesday did that was so smart was bringing in Christina Ricci.
Yeah. And another cast member, another like way that the 91, 93 movies really cast a large, a really large shadow, a looming shadow, if you will.
Well, that I think is a good opportunity for us to talk about what we were thinking, what we had in mind for A New Life for the Addams Family back in 2019 in March when we were recording our Addams Family episode. And we're going to start off with mine, if you don't mind.
I don't.
One idea is to have a sequel, like an official sequel, not like a Daryl Hannah, Tim Curry sequel, but an actual sequel with Adult Wednesday, Christina Ricci.
Okay.
Maybe just following her. Maybe she's not with the family anymore because, well, for obvious reasons, she can't be with Gomez. I mean, certainly Angelica Houston can reprise her role, but like maybe she's just like gone off and she's started her own Addams Family, or she's, I don't know, making Girl Scout cookies.
She's a designer.
She could be.
What if she
could be.
all of a sudden, what if we follow Wednesday through, all of a sudden Goth becomes really big and someone sees Wednesday and I don't know. It's the devil. It's like the Devil Wears Prada.
Right. Ooh, that'd be interesting. I like that. My other thought would be to do a prequel, and this would be Fester and Gomez at Camp Custer.
Yeah, a Fester and Gomez, the early years type prequel. Yeah, I think that could be fun. That could be fun as a movie. That could be fun as a series.
Or a podcast. I don't know.
Why not?
Featuring
it's this
two of
podcast.
us.
Yeah, I don't know. Fester and Gomez talk. Well, too bad you don't have your mustache. I'm bald. So.
It's an audio format. It's fine.
Yeah.
So picking up with Wednesday was, a pretty solid move. And although I still believe that a Christina Ricci led, Adult Wednesday series would be fun, I'm glad that they just went back and did it. I guess Wednesday at that age that Jenna Ortega was portraying in the series is a little bit older than I think we see her in any of the other adaptations. It feels really good, and it makes a lot of sense, and it felt really true to the characters.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Thing is there. And
she and Thing are buddies. Thing, by the way, that's one of the things that, like, they've always done well. Although in the animated one, I didn't really love how it has, like, a watch with an eye on it. I kind of love the mystique of just, like, how does it know what's going on?
That kind of addresses one of the notes that I had about the animated version, especially comparing it to a live action, because it's okay. Why would you remake it animated? And for every reason I could think of, I was like, yeah, but Barry Sonnenfeld did that in the movies too. And it looked good.
It looked good.
All the things, okay, yeah, their animation can, of course, push everything a little bit farther. You can juggle more swords. You can straddle between the open jaws of a crocodile. But I gotta say, 9 out of 10, anything I was like, I guess in the animated version you could do that. Oh, but Barry Sonnenfeld did that great. And Thing is a great example of both Barry Sonnenfeld and now Tim Burton, who people
Yes.
frequently, people who are not, as cinematically educated as you and I, aka not movie nerds,
Or probably most of our listeners.
would think that Tim Burton, or just kind of associate Tim Burton with Addams Family.
Yeah.
When in fact,
He doesn't own the macabre.
No, that was Barry Sonnenfeld doing. I mean, Danny Elfman didn't even do the music.
Nope.
Barry Sonnenfeld really did it brilliantly. And I think that for Tim Burton, I felt like Wednesday was, I don't want to call it a return to form, but
I knew you were going to say that, though.
Yeah, but it's like, it's not really, because it's still like, there's the mature Tim Burton in it, but a lot of it's like pared down, and it's a lot, what it was closer to for me was like 1989 Batman Tim Burton.
Sure. Yeah. I think that the way that this is a return for Tim Burton is just because I think for a lot of us in the generation that grew up with Tim Burton movies, once he kind of veered off of the path and started doing, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Alice in Wonderland and just became property of Disney. Now this is like, oh, this is something for us to watch again, because also it connects to the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Family, which we have so much love and nostalgia for. And then Tim Burton shepherding it in is kind of like, okay, we're back together again for a little bit.
It's a lovely intertwining of nostalgia. And I have to say also, like, I appreciate that I feel like that, has kind of come out through Wednesday, and sadly through a lot of the, tributes to Pee-wee, but just a lot more, I'm sure Pee-wee's Big Adventure has been getting a lot more views in the last a couple of weeks, and I'm so glad and so excited for people discovering it the first time. Sorry for the reason, but back to Addams Family.
Yeah, should we listen to what you had in mind?
Oh, what did I have in mind? I think a prequel makes sense because it's not a story that's been told before. And you could do that. And we know Morticia didn't meet Gomez until later on. So you can build up, and you get the misadventures of the Addams boys. You could meet their parents, or depending on which way you go, grandmama.
Sure.
Or no, I guess you have to keep it with Fester as Gomez's brother. So
yeah. Another thing to consider is, so we know in the 91 Addams Family movie that Fester has disappeared after a fight with Gomez about the Siamese twins, Flora and Fauna.
Flora and Fauna, yeah.
So bring Flora and Fauna back. Maybe that's the conflict that happens and things end in an ambiguous way. Perhaps you even have Fester's adventures in the Bermuda Triangle.
So a Fester spinoff. So I think so. Spinoffs, some prequel, a prequel, and what about Morticia? Get a story about Morticia. Sure. So I think, I agree with you. I think a prequel would be fun. A Fester and Gomez prequel would be fun. I think a Wednesday. I'm almost seeing it as like an HBO, like in the format of like an HBO series.
Yeah.
But just about Wednesday Addams in her adult life and how she's
maybe she's a famous fight choreographer. The scene in Addams Family where she and Pugsley are doing the school talent show.
That's amazing. I love that.
It is so much blood.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm interested. I really couldn't think of anything new. I really couldn't think of any new ideas. But I'm in this Wednesday Addams as an adult idea. It would be an interesting way to go.
Christina Ricci has always been great. I feel like she's kind of been in the shadows for a while. She had that one TV series, I forget. It was on some cable network. It's something with the Z. I don't know.
remember a film from, I think it was 98 called The Opposite of Sex that she was in.
Yeah.
And I remember it was a big deal because it was like she was definitely not playing like
Well, she was in Black Snake
Black,
Moan.
Oh, right. Black Snake Moan. Oh, she was in Speed Racer. I forgot she was in Speed Racer.
Z, the Beginning of Everything is the show where she was Zelda Fitzgerald.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yes. Yeah, but she's great. I've always enjoyed Christina Ricci, and
She was on that show Pan Am briefly.
Oh, right. Yeah. And she was in that movie Penelope, which I've never seen, but I've heard is really great.
She's just around, but I feel like Wednesday Addams might be her most iconic role. And
If
why
she
not
would
just
be-
kind of lean into it? Return.
If she would be willing to come back to it, then yeah, I would certainly welcome that.
Although watching her in the MC Hammer music video for Adam's Groove, she looks so much like she doesn't want to be there.
All right,
Who
so
knows?
we'll put that in the contract, like no more Hammer videos.
No more Hammer videos.
I think we can make good on that.
It's great to revisit this because now we get to talk about like Yellow Jackets and
Yes.
her role in Wednesday.
And maybe Hammer will get brought in for season 2.
And maybe Hammer. We don't know. Who is today's
Hammer
MC
also.
Hammer?
Hammer and his pants also cast a large shadow.
You know, we
over the
talked
Addams
about him.
Family
We
series.
talked about him on the last episode a little bit, but maybe Kid Cudi can be the new Hammer.
Oh, they do
Since
what
Kid
they want to
Cudi-
do, say what they want to say, dance how they want to dance, play how they want to play. I'm pretty
Because
sure I
I-
did it on the original episode.
You did,
too.
because I also feel like Kid Cudi is really funny and gets humor and like is into being part of these things. You know, is in Bill and Ted Face the Music. Was in the movie X with Jenna Ortega.
Okay.
So there's
I
another
mean,
connection.
why cannot we not get he's still alive, right, Hammer?
Yeah, but nobody wants him.
I do.
You want Hammer? All right.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's time for it to be Hammer time once again.
Well, my one note for Hammer is don't hurt him. Wasn't that his thing? Hey, Hammer, don't
Yeah.
hurt him. Yeah.
Well, please, that was his album. Please,
Yeah.
please, Hammer, don't hurt him.
I had the album for sure.
You definitely had the
I
album.
definitely had the album because
cassette.
that's who I was. Okay. When I first started to be able to buy my own cassette tapes, do you remember the first cassette tape you ever bought with your own money?
No, I'm trying to. I remember like a lot of it because I got into cassette. I like started listening to cassettes like before I had my own money.
Oh no.
'Cause, like-
I had cassettes before I had my own money, but I remember the first cassette I actually purchased with my own money. You
Was
don't
it
have
Please
that?
Hammer, Don't Hurt Him?
No, it was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 soundtrack.
Oh, John, I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna say, didn't you also have the Turtles 2 soundtrack? Though I did not realize it was the first. Oh, okay, all right.
That was the first
like
tape I ever bought. Around the same time would have had to have been the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack. Because I was going through a huge Bobby Brown phase at the time, which may have come about because of Ghostbusters 2. Now that I think about it.
Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack would have been a couple of years earlier.
I mean, I bought
Than
it. It was
Turtles
on
2.
the
Yes.
shelves. It's not like I had just freshly seen the movie.
No,
But
you had. I'm pretty sure you had the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack like
I
when it
100%
was
did.
current.
Or maybe that was gifted to me.
It might have been.
Yeah, but
I
also
don't
I would say that all the other tapes that I bought around that time were probably Weird Al.
like among
Who
my
Kid Cudi replaced
fir-
on Comedy Bang Bang, the series.
Oh, okay. Among my first cassettes, and these were bought for me. I did not
Yeah.
buy these with my own money. Born in the USA,
Okay.
Raising Hell, Run DMC.
Wow. Okay.
I know, right? And that
Happy
was like,
50th to hip hop, by the way.
yeah, exactly. And that was like definitely one of my. It was in that batch of like the first cassettes. I'm pretty sure that there was a Monkees greatest hits compilation
Okay.
that was then this is like the Monkees then and now, or like that was then this is now. It was like during their comeback when like Nickelodeon was showing reruns of
Which is funny
of the show.
because the This Is Now refers to a time that's longer ago from now than that now would have been from when then is for the cassette.
Yes, I understand exactly what you mean by what you're saying.
What I said actually tracks with the words that I said work.
Yes. Okay. Yes, those were in there. I remember I had the La Bamba soundtrack and the Little Shop of Horror soundtrack. But again, I did not buy those with my own money. I'm trying to think of like what I would have purchased, like maybe the Batman soundtrack. I'm trying like what
I'll tell you some more. I'll tell you some more information. I bought the first tape at Browsers in our hometown of Cranford, New Jersey.
Nice. I mean, I might have bought my first tape at Off the Record, but like there was also so many other places. You know, it could have been at Sam Goody.
Off the Record was a great name for a music store. Browsers is a really bad name for a store.
Yes.
Unless it's like a library, you know, or something where, I don't know, purchasing isn't part of the equation, really.
The business is not reliant on customers purchasing things, that's rare.
Well, Dan, I feel like, you know, we're 40 minutes in. We should move on to our discussion about Rocky IV.
Oh, boy.
This episode that we did on Rocky IV was released on May 21st, 2019, in a series that we were doing as a play on the phrase, "May the 4th be with you," because it was May and we were doing the fourth installation of a franchise.
But nothing to do with Star Wars.
Nothing to do with Star Wars. We didn't do Episode 4, A New Hope, or The Phantom Menace, depending on what rules you're playing. So Rocky IV, we thought, of course we got to do Rocky IV.
Yes.
And little did we, and what we talked about on that episode was mostly about the movie Creed 2, which is kind of a spiritual sequel to, or as we called it, I think a legacy sequel to specifically Rocky IV, because it had to do with Ivan Drago's son and the return of Drago and all that.
It really picks up the threads of Rocky IV. Also, like with Apollo's son feeling some need for vengeance.
Yeah. But little did we know that Sylvester Stallone was going to release, limited theatrically, but release a director's cut of Rocky IV called Rocky IV, Rocky vs. Drago. So it is, in essence, a new movie. I mean, it came out, it was released. It's kind of fascinating that happened that way.
Yes. Yes. And this might have, I don't know if this is one of those like, well, because of COVID, like Stallone had the time to, you know, go back and tinker with Rocky IV. I don't know if it's that, or if, like, you know, there's probably been a lot of things that he was, that he had in mind. But I guess, first of all, did you get a chance to watch Rocky?
I watched it this morning.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, I watched it this morning. And this just came out. When did this come out? Was it just a few months ago?
No,
a
couple of years ago,
2021, maybe. I'm seeing articles that, you know, some of them are more recent than others. So it's pretty fascinating to see the things that were added and upsetting to see which elements were taken away, specifically Paulie's robot.
Yeah, it was. So this is really, you know, it's funny because so many different director's cuts, we've talked about it before, don't really change that much. Maybe there's more violent, you know, bloodier violence, sexier sex. What?
Yeah, unless you could consider the Superman 2 Donner cut to be, it's not a director's, it's a director's cut, but it's not the director on record's cut.
Right. Yeah.
I'm actually listening to the new Action Boys episode is about the Donner cut. So
is it? Okay.
Mind. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'll have to check that out because I have seen the Donner cut.
Yeah. But yeah, this director's cut, I think it's like 40 minutes of unused footage. And
it's like the movie, you know, clocks in, you know, at around 90 minutes, and Stallone took out almost half of that and replaced it with unused footage. You know, I don't
Yeah.
think anything really, like, you know, anything new. There's not like a de-aged.
The only thing that I was wondering about is during the fight with Drago, and maybe I'm just misremembering Rocky IV, though I did watch it a few days ago. There's a moment in the new director's cut where he's kind of like against the ropes, about to like maybe get up or not. And we hear Rocky's inner monologue.
Yes.
That's new, right?
That's new, but okay, I'm so glad you brought it
Because I was wondering, I
up.
was like, is that his like 2021 voice? Or is that something that was not used from then? I was trying to figure it out.
Oh, I mean, it was not in the original.
Correct.
cut.
Yeah, but yeah.
But I don't know if it was something that he had originally recorded. I don't know if that's a good question, is whether that was recorded. It does sound like his 1985 voice.
It does, unless it was like, you know, modulated to sound younger or something.
I mean, look, it's with the technology available, frighteningly enough.
Well, maybe not necessarily at the time but they could have.
Well, no, I'm
treated
saying
it,
the technology available in 2020 or 2021 to create a deep fake of Stallone's circa 1985 voice.
Yeah.
Saying a scripted monologue. Oh, absolutely.
Also, who doesn't have a Stallone impression? That's spot on.
Well,
He's one of the easier people to do an impression of.
It could have been Will Sasso for all we know.
It could have been literally anybody. Everybody has a Stallone.
Yeah.
Exactly. You could have done it.
No.
Hey, Rock, you got to get up.
You know, you got to fight. You can't stop. You can't you got the eye of the tiger.
The beginning of the film is a little bit different. The way it kind of goes into a little bit more of the Clubber Lang, like before the Clubber Lang fight.
It's a lot of Rocky. You know what he did essentially? So like the 1985 cut of Rocky IV is awesome as a time capsule of American like Cold War propaganda, and it's American can-do attitude. And I feel like Stallone he didn't take out a lot of that cold, because Apollo, especially in the recut, it's kind of like, whereas in the 1985 cut, the movie acted like, okay, this movie could win the Cold War for the United States. Like opening with the gloves smashing together.
Right, yeah.
Gone in the director's cut.
Yeah. Which I did miss.
You did or you didn't?
I did.
I did as well. But I miss. So as I watched more of the movie, and I was like, okay, this is the type of stuff they took out. This is the stuff that they focused more on. I was like, okay, so he edited it to be much more of a character story than a rah-rah hero inner demons montage. If I could change, you could change, everybody
20 million.
Change.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it for that. I feel like these movies, and I don't know if I've ever felt this about a director's cut, but like these movies can live independently of each other. I think it's similar like so the Amadeus director's cut is basically just like the R-rated, like an hour longer version.
Really.
So like if I'm going to show Amadeus to a younger person, I would show the theatrical cut. But anyway, Rocky IV, I feel like it's an interesting exercise in looking at these movies almost independently of each other, because the movie itself felt like propaganda, whereas in this, it's almost like the propaganda is looked at as the sideshow, and the recut was so much more about motivation and why do we fight? Why, like, okay, so in the original Rocky, he's fighting because that's all he's got. Like, that's basically what he can do. Like, his job is as a mob enforcer.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like the fight, and he's fighting to get to rise above that, but it's like this is the only skill he has. Yeah. So he's doing that, and it's like I feel like 2 and 3 are proving. 2 is like, I came this close last time. I can win. 3,
I'm the champ.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, I'm the champ. What I like about 3 is the setup that all of his defenses have been shams and against contenders that they knew he could beat, because Mickey is like, yo, you got lucky. And if you come up against somebody who can actually fight and isn't just good at like letting the other person tire themselves out, you're screwed. And then in comes Clubber Lang. So 3 was about that, like Rocky kind of finding that, also finding a friend in Apollo.
Right.
And it's, it's like, as he points out in 4, Apollo believed in him. Apollo gave him opportunity when nobody else would. And even though Apollo was basically just setting him up to be an exhibition.
Sure. And also like, hey, this will be fun. People will eat this up. Yeah.
Right.
And then not realizing like this is somebody who actually has the drive in them to be something.
Yeah. So it's like, so it also makes sense in terms of motivation, like why Rocky wouldn't stop Apollo from getting in the ring with Drago.
Yeah.
Why he doesn't throw in the towel even when he knows he should.
Yeah.
But there's also the motivation of like, why is Apollo taking this fight? Watching it again, I thought of something that I don't think I had ever thought of before during the James Brown number when Apollo comes out. And I was like, this is a great example that Apollo's motivation is not winning the fight. Apollo's motivation is getting the spotlight. I did not intend to rhyme. But that's, and it's talked about more in the director's cut.
Yeah.
Adrian talks about it. There's more of Adrian talking about it.
Sure. Yeah.
But as I'm watching him and I'm like, this is an older man. I'm not sure how old Apollo is supposed to be in Rocky IV, but maybe late 30s.
Yeah.
Which, for a boxer.
Sure.
He's not even trying to win the fight. He's just looking for the publicity, and he's kind of just trusting that, like, okay, I might get a little, beat up. I might even lose, but hey, like, I'm back in the spotlight. I mean, during the match, he acknowledges that he might not survive it.
Yeah, he's like, I have to do this.
Yeah, he says, don't throw in the towel no matter what.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of like crafting a stronger movie and a more character-based story and something that is much more focused on what motivates us to do things, that other people would say, why the hell are you doing that? That is so much more central. And you even get a little bit more of that on Drago's side.
Yes. The first like press conference, was that new? Or was that expanded? It was expanded, yeah. Because I feel like I saw a little bit more in Dolph Lundgren that I didn't remember before. And because certainly there was the press conference before the actual like Rocky fight, but
right, the one with Paul. I'm the unsilent majority.
Yeah, which is great.
I love Paulie. Sorry that some of his stuff got cut out. I kind of understand it.
He doesn't get his robot. I also will say my favorite part got cut. And that's when Rocky is fighting Drago and his son is back in the States watching it with his two friends. And he goes, that's my dad. And his friends go, well, what do you think we are, nerds or whatever? And I imagine that they would have kept that in had the robot not been like in the shot.
Prominently featured.
Yeah. Because I love that line. I love that moment. We do get the scene with Rocky and his son where he's like in his son's bedroom and he's kind of telling him like, people are going to tell you not to do something, but sometimes you just know yourself and you have to do it for yourself and you just got to be true to you. And, I guess that's where we get the moment with the kid, but I feel like we needed more with the kid.
Yeah, we lose a lot of the kid there. Oh yeah, I felt like also this might have been retrofitted. The movie might have been retrofitted for audiences getting into Rocky through Creed, and not necessarily because I also think for Rocky IV, you need to understand a lot of the choices made for the theatrical cut. You need to understand like 1985 and
true,
just like the vibe of that
Well,
of that time.
along those lines, I would say that they maybe should have put in a little bit more about what United States and Soviet Union relations were like, and to kind of give a little bit more context for people who are maybe just getting into it, who maybe were born after that time.
Have just maybe some more, like, even through just like some archive news footage playing in the background.
I understand that, yes, it would be tough to do something that they didn't shoot, but what I would have liked to have seen was something that gave a little bit more context of like, why is this a big deal?
Right, which I'm saying, like, it would not be a Rocky movie to add, like, some titles at the beginning,
Sure,
to some text with a circa 1985 War Games looking map of the world, and the United States and the Soviet Union.
but they couldn't have started it that way because they were starting it still in the middle of Rocky III. It's
right.
the middle of Rocky III. It's before the big fight that this one starts at, where he goes to the statue.
So if you've never seen Rocky III, you just watch the director's cut of Rocky IV, and all you're missing is like the stuff with Hulk Hogan at the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, you're missing a lot. You're missing one of my favorite scenes from the franchise, Mickey's funeral, because you get to hear Stallone speak Hebrew.
Yeah. You find out that Mickey's Jewish.
Yeah. Gold mill.
Gold mill, yeah.
Yeah. This is, I think it's more focused, but like you have a lot of, like, even when Apollo's in his pool and he sees Drago on the TV, I feel like you've got the technology where you could have in scenes, backgrounds of like, Peter Jennings on the news, being like, and the Soviet Union tested another,
right.
The Pentagon is calling for it.
You absolutely could have done something there. I do love that scene where he's just in the pool playing with his dogs.
Yeah. But yeah, a few other things that are different. Apollo's funeral is longer, and you get to hear Duke's eulogy.
Right. Yeah.
You get more,
which
Duke
I was glad
in
about.
this.
You got more Duke,
Yes.
because when I was watching Rocky IV the other day, I was like, I wish that I could see more of him, understand more about him.
And you know what it is, and among other things, like, this is a character who's in like all these movies, and you're just like, all right, his emotion during the Creed Drago fight.
Yeah. Well, and this was in the original cut, but when they're at the cabin in the Soviet Union and Duke is explaining to Rocky, it's like, he was like my son.
Right.
And that was in the original, and I do feel like that resonated more having heard his eulogy, and that did help. I did appreciate
it.
That.
Made a lot more sense. So I thought that was really interesting. Drago's post-match interview after the fight with Creed, I feel like there was more to that.
What did he say in that one?
I forget.
I think that it was more of just like, I didn't want to do this one anyway. That's not what I was here for. I was here for
right.
Guy.
I came for that. I'll like talk to me after I fight a champion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which I think becomes more clear about like the motivations for Drago and the annoyance of having to fight Apollo. Where it's just like,
right.
Oh, geez, fine. Okay.
Well, that's the thing is like, and it's funny because Drago doesn't have, he's really not motivated because he's got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Other scenes that we got added in there, an interesting scene with Rocky meeting with the boxing commission. Because I feel like it's always kind of like brushed over the fact that like Rocky like gives up the championship to fight Drago because the commission won't sanction the match. And I feel like I never really got that from Rocky IV. I never really cared. Yeah,
it makes a lot more sense.
Montages. Rocky IV has 2 montages. They are both still in.
They're both still in. Okay, so there's clearly the training montage in Russia. There's also the like driving the Lamborghini and thinking about all of the subsequent movies.
The flashback
all
montage.
Of the flashback stuff, yeah.
Shows you all of Rocky III that you didn't get at the beginning.
Yeah, I know. It's wild. But it goes back to the first Rocky and him meeting, because it's kind of like the battle that he's having internally of just like, do I go with my gut and, you know, fight because I need to fight and because Apollo is my best friend and everything. Or there's Adrian, who is really begging me to not do this and pleading with me and thinking about his relationship with her and his internal struggle. Although that montage comes right after he has already told Adrian, he's like, I'm doing this. I've made up my mind.
But you know, I guess, yeah,
Also, there are so many shots of him just like getting into and starting his car that it's like, hurry it up, dude. Have your inner monologue turmoil situation already.
Yeah, I feel like there were a few times where I like initially thought he was getting out of the car, but then he gets into the car.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wait a second. Oh, you're going out.
Yes.
You didn't just get home. It was like
Well, also, it's like,
God,
it makes it seem like he's about to like drive to the airport, but then the next thing it's like he's back at home in the morning talking to his son.
Right. No, well, I think in previous movies, we've seen that like he does drive around to clear his head or throw his helmet at statues.
Yes,
and
that's true.
We
That
get
is-
that in the beginning.
That
yeah.
is a very standard thing. Also, in the new director's cut, we remember, of course, the part where Drago says, like, you know, he's like a piece of iron or whatever. But did they add in the like he's not a man, he's a beast?
No, that
was in the original.
Yeah.
Because I only really remember him saying like he's like iron. I don't remember.
No,
him
because they
saying-
cut back and forth
Yeah.
from Duke saying like, you know, he's not a machine. He's not a machine.
Yeah.
He's human.
And he's
He's,
like, he's a
and then they
machine.
cut to the other side, be like, you know, he's a machine. They got to be.
I think that it's just that I just only remembered and I was like looking for like what's different. So I think I was just watching it differently.
At some points, it was really easy to spot, and then there were a few things where I was like, is that? I also I didn't watch the theatrical cut
Oh, okay.
like as recently. I've seen it enough where I felt pretty confident going into the director's cut. Like, all right, I'm going to know if something's really like, I might not recognize if something's recut, though. I noticed the boxing matches, they felt recut.
Oh yeah, they definitely were recut.
It felt more like current combat sport influenced.
Maybe.
Like a lot of the, like some, I don't know, maybe I'm just imagining that.
I also feel like there was something different about, we touched upon it earlier, but the James Brown sequence, there was something that felt also different about the shots where we had like James Brown and Apollo rather than the cutbacks to like Rocky. But I don't know.
Yeah.
If you play them side by side, I'm sure you'll see plenty of differences.
Right.
It also seems like there was more of a build up in the new cut before the song starts of Drago like by himself or like being left alone.
Oh,
that seemed a little bit extended to me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I felt the same way.
Him noticing what's going on in the fanfare of all of the, you know, pro-America stuff.
I will say, and before, you know, my final, and then hearing what we had to say.
You know, well, I'm just going to say, I don't think that we should go back to hearing what we were going to say because it's all about Creed 2.
Oh yeah. Also because, yeah, I guess did we even know at this point that Stallone was going to do? I feel like that was a pandemic era announcement that Stallone
we have on this podcast for other episodes had the idea of just like, I'd like to see a recut of this where this happens and that happens, and you know.
I mean, I have to say, like this recut is absolutely, if you're a fan of the original, totally worth seeing. This is not just like, oh, they added this in or that. It is a different movie.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's really a full revision of the movie.
Yes.
That maybe shows some hindsight and some desire to update the film to make it less of a 1985 time capsule, which I also feel
There's
like
still plenty of that.
Which there's still plenty of it, but also like the original, it's not like this is not like the special editions where it's, you know, you have to go on the black market to get a Blu-ray of the original theatrical cut of Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
But I really appreciate each of the films and I appreciate them on their own. And I think that whereas, you know, Rocky IV has always been one of my favorites in the Rocky franchise, I think this director's cut is kind of in there in that same spot. but just for some slightly different reasons. Many reasons the same. Dolph Lundgren and Brigitte Nielsen, and the setup of them is, magnificent. And, Drago, I think, I don't know, I guess I was about to say Drago is Rocky's most iconic opponent, though I would say Apollo probably.
I'd say they're both kind of up pretty high, only compared to himself. His greatest opponent.
Well, it's the only opponent he's faced in all of his movies.
Yeah. Except for in Creed 2 when his greatest opponent is cancer.
Yeah. True. And again, Drago.
And also Drago. Although they kind of are just like, hey.
Kids, right?
But Dolph Lundgren, watching it again, man, he's so good. You get lost in the character and you forget that it's an actor playing it, I feel. He's really that good. Although
it kind of tickles me that, in the movie, he's this paragon of Soviet accomplishment and science and virtue. And at a certain point, I just want him to go, fuck this shit, I'm Swedish.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I feel like it was really fun to watch the original and then the director's cut. And I'm always happy to revisit the Rocky movies.
But I would say Rocky IV. Yeah, and I'm, if you're a fan as well, and you've checked out Rocky versus Drago, the director's cut, what did you think? Did you miss the robot? Tell us, email us at ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to check out our link tree. That's our Instagram bio, because we want to sell some of those movie journals.
Buy my book. Yes.
By John. Yes. No. John has made for you a journal, a way to capture a year of movie going, not necessarily a year's worth of movie going.
365 pages.
But you are not committing to a movie a day for an entire year.
You can make it a challenge. This is also for those who Letterboxd is great. I love it. But let's say you want to have something on your shelf. This is perfect for that. But we also have a fantastic TeePublic store where you can buy other merch from us. It goes a really long way to help us keep the show going, and it's much appreciated.
I feel like what a fun conversation starter that would be to have out on like a coffee table if you're having guests and they flip it open and, for example, they're like, Dan, what the hell? You really dislike Napoleon Dynamite. Oh, we got to talk about that.
We should talk about Napoleon Dynamite sometime.
Someone made a Napoleon Dynamite reference recently, and sometimes, and usually what I'll do is, fight the urge to be like, why do you like that movie? And just kind of go along with it and be like, yeah, man, tater tots, am I right?
Yeah. So, Dan, let's tell everybody what we're going to talk about on our next episode of Ruined Childhoods.
So we will be revisiting our Fletch episode, talking about 2022's Confess Fletch, the Fletch reboot, directed by Greg Mottola and starring John Hamm.
Yeah, so we recorded our Fletch episode on, I think it was May 25th, 2021. Let me verify that one really quick. And this was, I want to say at the time there was the conversation going on about, or we knew that it was going to be coming out. Yeah, Fletch, May 25th, 2021. So clearly we didn't do the May the 4th in 2021.
No, this and Confess Fletch won't even be the fourth Fletch movie.
That's correct. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to checking back in with Confess Fletch because that I loved it the first time. So we're gonna be checking out and we'll be revisiting some other odds and ends. I'm hoping perhaps to get an opportunity to play the video game Vertigo. Oh, is there a Vertigo video game? Vertigo video game?
Yeah, well, it's called Vertigo, but it's kind of like I think it's kind of a mishmash of Hitchcock. Like I think like the person you're playing as is kind of like your stereotypical Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant character.
Yeah, you're a Hitchcock dude.
I think we talked about. I think when we did the episode, our Vertigo episode, it was like soon to be released or had just been released.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we're gonna, in addition
Anyway.
to Confess Fletch, we'll talk about just updates about some of the other ones that we've discussed. There have been a lot of other movies that we've covered where we're like on the verge of new things coming out, or just little news bits about
other
them.
things have been discussed. Other things have been thrown about, bandied about since we last discussed them.
Well, Dan, as you travel out to 1985 Soviet Russia, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.